Hi, boys and girls. It's Elizabeth here. I am so lucky that I get to do Sunday school with you this Sunday. I know that I can't see you, but please know that I am thinking of you and always trying to brainstorm and think of ways we can connect and build our faith together, even though we're not at church physically. You're still in our hearts. All right, so last week, we kind of introduced the story of Joseph. And the next thing that we know, what happened to Joseph is his brothers sold him. And we're going to find out what happens to him. And I'm going to help you read through the story today. And then we'll have some questions that we might want to think about. And then I would love to chat with you about your Compass quarterly objectives. It's already October. That surprised me to think that our quarterly objectives end in November and it's almost here. So that went by really fast, and I would love to chat with you about that and help you win some prizes to celebrate that you are building your faith. So we'll get started with our story. We are going to talk about part 2 of Joseph. So, prison to palace. While Joseph was in Egypt, he was forced to work as a slave for Potiphar. Potiphar saw that Joseph was a hard worker. He made Joseph his personal assistant. Joseph was in charge of the household and property. Seeing that Joseph was a handsome man, Potiphar's wife fell in love with him. But Joseph did not want to make trouble in Potiphar's house, and this made Potiphar's wife angry. So she told lies about Joseph, and he was thrown into prison. While Joseph was in prison, the Lord helped him and was good to him. He made the jailer like Joseph so much that he put him in charge of all the prisoners and everything that was done in the jail. The jailer did not worry about anything because the Lord was with Joseph and made him successful in all that he did. 2 years later, the king of Egypt dreamed. He was standing beside the Nile River. Suddenly, 7 fat, healthy cows came up from the river and started eating grass along the bank. The 7 ugly, skinny cows came up out of the river and ate the fat, healthy cows. When that happened, the king awoke. So the king went back to sleep and he had another dream. This time, 7 full heads of grain were growing on a single stalk. Later, 7 other heads of grains appeared, but they were thin and scorched by the east wind. The thin heads of grain swallowed the 7 full heads, and again the king woke up, and it had only been a dream. So the next morning the king was upset. So he called in the magicians and the wise men and told them that he had a dream, but none of them could tell him what the dreams meant. Meanwhile, the king's servant remembered that he had once been in prison with Joseph, and Joseph had told him the meaning of his dreams. So the king sent for Joseph and told him the dreams. So Joseph replied, "Your Majesty, both of your dreams mean the same thing, and in them God has shown what he is going to do. The 7 good cows stand for the 7 years, and so do the 7 good heads of grain. The 7 skinny, ugly cows that came up later also stand for 7 years, as do the 7 bad heads of grain that were scorched by the east wind. The dreams mean that there will be 7 years when there won't be enough grain. It is just as I said. God has shown what he intends to do. For 7 years, Egypt will have more than enough grain, but it will be followed by 7 years when there won't be enough. The good years of plenty will be forgotten, and everywhere in Egypt, people will be starving. The famine will be so bad that no one will remember that once there had been plenty. Joseph then told the king to choose someone wise to be in charge of Egypt. That person should gather the food and store during the good years, and then there would be food to eat during the famine. The king liked the plan. The king told Joseph, God is the one who has shown you these things. No one else as wise as you are knows as much as you do. I'm putting you in charge of my palace, and everybody will have to obey you. No one will be over you except me. You are now governor of all Egypt. Then the king took off his royal ring and put it on Joseph's finger. He gave him the finest clothes to wear and placed a gold chain around his neck. Joseph gathered and stored grain during the 7 good years. Then the famine came to Egypt. The people begged for bread, and Joseph sold them grain. People from many countries came to Egypt because the famine in their home of their country was so severe. And next week, so we'll end there, and next week it will be part 3 of Joseph. But something that I think is so interesting to think about is imagine that you were imprisoned one day, and then the second most high-ranking job in Egypt the next. How would that feel? Also, something I think I would like for us to wonder about is what it might feel to have too many things. It could be things like toys, clothes, food, and for some of us, we don't have enough food and clothes and things like toys. So how might we be able to share with people around us in times that we have too many of those things? There are great organizations around our community that help us share these items, and you can gather things that you don't use or you don't need and donate and share those things for people who don't have any or have enough. And the other thing I would like to talk about is how can we prepare for the both good and bad? It was interesting to hear all the way leading up to this story how God is constantly preparing us for the good and the bad. And we can always lean on Him during good and bad. And I think it's great if you are watching these Sunday school videos because these stories help build our faith. And that helps us prepare for good and bad times. We can lean on these stories during the worst times that we feel we don't know who to look for. But we always can look to God. And when we're prepared to do so, building our faith nice and strong, we can always remember that. All right, I'm really enjoying Joseph, and I like how we can stick with the same characters and make predictions. What do you think is your next prediction?